other agencies.
They didn't want to take advice from you.
Like, Atlanta, for instance, maybe one, or Kansas City, Denver.
I know. Yeah, I follow it loosely from stuff that I used to do.
With,
And even in the well, actually, some of it is.
Yes,
who that is.
Right, I think it was right after I stood up this big arm of an organization.
Okay, it looks like we are live on YouTube and looks like we're good to go.
All right. Let's call the February 11th, 2026 meeting of the Rockbridge County Planning Commission to order. Do we have Adam online anywhere?
I am looking for him now. Bear with me. He is. I'm just promoting him. Bear with me. Adam, are you with us here?
Adam, if you're there, unmute.
I'm here, guys.
Perfect.
We hear you.
Boy, you're loud, Adam. Hey, would you like to say anything to the group here?
On behalf of participating in the meeting, I am utilizing the electronic policy guideline subsection D. I am joining via virtual due to personal matters.
Thank you for joining us, Adam.
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm going to call roll now. Commission member Sabrizi.
Here.
Commission member Kramer.
Here.
Commission member Sandridge.
Present.
Commission member Whitmore.
Here.
And Commission member Beebe is here as well. In addition to citizens attending the meeting in person, citizens have several options to view or participate in the Zoom meeting webinar as described below. We'll do our best to take citizen comment remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. To join the Rockbridge County Planning Commission Zoom webinar, the link is available on the county website to copy into the address line on your browser. To join by telephone, you may dial into one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Planning Commission YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press raise hand button on the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you are calling in by telephone. At this time, we'll proceed with the meeting. This is the citizens comments section of the meeting. Is there anyone physically present to speak, Neil?
There's no one signed up.
How about remote? Is there anybody Zoom or by phone?
I see no one with a hand raised.
All right. Have you all had a chance to read the minutes, and do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve as submitted.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. All the nays? It passes unanimously.
Can I make one comment? And I trust Vivica immensely. She does such a great job transmitting our minutes. And I don't remember exactly the words in it that I was going to say she put in my mouth, but I'm sure I put them in my own mouth. About the Fralin project and the grant being a deciding factor or something like that in my mind. I want to take that back, assuming I did actually say that. It was a factor, but it wouldn't have make or break my vote. So just let you all know what, as far as the meeting goes. Remember
Okay.
the grant, there was
Vivica,
a grant associated with it.
do you have that, Vivica?
Yeah, you don't need
Okay.
to change anything. I said, I probably said it.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Hey, board reports, Neil. I
Yes.
assume it's going to be you.
At the February 9th, 2026 Board of Supervisors meeting, the At Ease Corporation applications that were recommended for approval at the January 14, 2026 Planning Commission meeting were approved by the Board of Supervisors. One additional condition was added requiring construction of the first guest cabin to begin within 36 months. of the special exception permit approval date. Both applications were approved by unanimous vote. The TCO board met on February 4, 2026 to review the site plans for the proposed upgrade to the existing Keydett General Motel and the Fincastle Baptist Church application to place a double-wide classroom unit in place of the existing single-wide unit at the VFW Post 1499 location at 105 Memorial Lane. The board recommended approval of both plans with a unanimous vote. Community Development Committee met on January 20, 2026. Topics of discussion include a recent board and commission action items. The next meeting of the Community Development Committee will be held on Tuesday, February 17th at 12:15.
Thank you, Neil. At this time, the first item on the list will be the Marlbrook Baptist Church public hearing. Application for a special exception permit for the construction of a structure in Zone AE hatched floodway in the special flood hazard area.
Yes, Marlbrook Baptist Church, 6926 North Lee Highway, Rafine, Virginia, has made an application for a special exception permit for the construction of an accessory structure in Zone AE hatched floodway in the special flood hazard area. The property is located on the north side of South River Road, Route 608, approximately 0.24 miles southwest of the intersection of McCroy's Hill, Route 709 and South River Road. The property is owned by Marlbrook Baptist Church and is further identified as tax map number 52-5-2B. The property is located in the agricultural and general uses A2 zoning district and is within the flood hazard overlay district FH1 per section 608.11-21 of the regulations. Structures for public and private recreational uses in Zone AE hatch floodway of the special flood hazard area are used by special exception in the FH1 overlay district. The property is located in the South River Magisterial District. And with us here tonight, we have the applicant that's going to give some further information and answer questions.
That's great. Would the applicant like to present, please?
Luke Fisher. This is Pastor John Tilley. I'll let you talk about the history.
All right. So
Thank you for coming.
thank y'all for hearing us.
Yeah.
Marlbrook Baptist Church was started in 1900 on the property that we're referring to today. Church was there until the mid-50s. In the mid-50s, we moved up to our property on Route 11. In the 60s, the church building that was down there on the river got washed away. The property kind of got forgot about for many years. And in the past few years, we cleaned the property up and had started setting up a tent and having our homecoming service there annually. And we would like to build an open pavilion kind of to just preserve the heritage of the church, have a structure there, and it give us a place for having special meetings for church people to have picnics and that type of thing. So that's what we're hoping to do. And Luke here is a contractor in the county and also a member of our church, and he's overseeing the project.
Yeah, we plan to build it as flood resistant as possible, anchoring it in a concrete pad. We'll set the post and then pour a pad to put it on, and everything should, for the most part, resist flotation and collapse and try to resist lateral movement. So I think we'll do our best to mitigate any flood stresses that may come, although the flood of the 60s is probably, a once in a lifetime
Act of God. Thank you. Thank you. You guys can stay there. If this would be a good time to, and anything else, we'll ask questions. Everybody good?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to go pretty quick, fellas. Okay. Thank you, guys. We're going to open a public hearing now. Is anybody physically present, Neil, who would like to speak?
There's no one signed up.
How about Zoom or by phone?
I'm not seeing anyone with a hand raised.
Okay. Let's, at this time, it would be appropriate to close the public hearing, I believe. Any objections to closing the public hearing? Okay. Any discussion, fellas?
Just nobody to see it. And
Do it
they
on my
approved-
end.
What's that, Adam?
I'm good on my end.
Thank you.
And Mr. Beebe, to confirm the public hearing is closed.
The public hearing is closed. Sorry about that.
What's the acreage of the parcel? I don't know if I missed that or something. Y'all know?
Probably that a half acre.
If you wouldn't mind.
So we can keep it.
It is, the parcel is right at a half acre now. It actually surveys bigger than that, but after the flood, the road was moved. And so the road goes through the front part of the parcel. So what's actually usable is right at a half acre.
Yeah, per the application says 0.24 acres, but we'll go by what they say.
Yeah.
To clarify, that's 0.24 miles of the southwest.
Okay,
of the,
yeah, correction. Yeah, sorry.
Who is your neighbor that surrounds you, at least on two sides? If you don't know, that's not a big deal. I was just curious. It looks like it's vacant land anyway, and maybe a power line cut behind it.
There's a camper trailer on the lot to the west, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that in the image
Yeah.
provided. To the right-hand side, from the best of my knowledge, that circles around, has some access by the road, but circles way up in there. I think that's a pretty big parcel.
I was looking here to see if I had the name of the guy that owned the camper, but I don't find it.
Oh,
So-
that's no problem. That's all I had. Thank you. Thank you.
Any additional discussion, gentlemen? Adam, anything? You're good?
I'm good, sir.
All right. Seems like a good project. Would any commission member like to make a motion at this time?
I'll go ahead. If there's nobody that has any other conditions they want, I'm gonna just, what we have here. I make a motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that the special exception permit for the construction of an accessory structure in Zone AE Hatch floodway in the special flood hazard area be approved with the following conditions: substantial compliance with the schematic plan prepared by the applicant titled Marlbrook Baptist Schematic Plan dated January 16th, 2026. And number two, approval contingent upon Rockbridge County Building Department approvals.
A second.
We have a motion by Tony Sabrizi and a second by Bob Kramer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The vote is unanimous. So don't have to spell it out. Motion carries. That's it, gentlemen. Thank you all.
Thank
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, at this time, we're going to have a presentation of the Economic Development Authority Housing Recommendations and Zoning Review. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. The purpose of this item today is to present the housing-related zoning recommendations developed by the EDA Housing Subcommittee, along with the results of a broader zoning review, and to receive your feedback from a planning and land use perspective on the potential next steps. As some background, the Economic Development Authority recently completed an update to its strategic economic development plan. One of the key findings of that effort, also supported by the Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission's housing study, is that workforce housing availability continues to be a significant constraint to economic growth in Rockbridge County. Employers across multiple sectors have indicated that housing supply, price point, and proximity to employment centers influence recruitment and retention, which directly ties into how we plan for future land use and development patterns. In response to the regional housing study, the EDA formed a housing subcommittee that includes EDA members, representatives from the Board of Supervisors, and county staff. And during the summer of 2025, the subcommittee conducted a county-wide housing survey, which received over 300 responses. Results showed a strong demand for homes priced below $350,000, particularly in locations near services, infrastructure, and employment centers. On October 1st, 2025, the subcommittee hosted a roundtable discussion with developers and real estate professionals to address the challenges to development in the county. Participants expressed interest in building locally, but noted barriers such as land costs, limited availability of public water and sewer, and relatively few opportunities for medium and high density residential developments. Following that discussion, staff and the subcommittee completed a comparative review of the county's zoning ordinance against peer localities. And while our ordinance does permit medium and higher density residential uses, the limited extent and location of R2 zoning combined with infrastructure constraints appear to limit where those development types are realistically feasible. The material is provided to you, including the housing subcommittee letter, our zoning research, and the rezoning memo outline several strategies for the Planning Commission to consider from a land use standpoint. These include strategic expansion or evaluation of R2 zoning and appropriate growth areas, consideration of accessory dwelling units as a potential incremental housing option, and an exploration of planned unit development framework to allow flexibility while maintaining design and compatibility standards. At this stage, staff is primarily seeking your input and planning perspective on these concepts, particularly how they align with the comprehensive plan, existing growth policies, and infrastructure considerations. That pretty much concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions. Mr. Hawkins is also here as a representative of the EDA Housing Subcommittee.
Thank you. Maybe we'll start with staff. Have you guys looked at the recommendations, or has Chris weighed in on, for example, the R2 expansion? Is anybody given it a thought yet, or are you looking for direction from the Planning Commission?
Essentially looking for, I think, a kind of a joint look between Planning Commission, Board of Supervisors, the EDA, to kind of chart a path forward and see from a staff perspective. We, of course, play a neutral role in that and just facilitate the process as there is desire on maybe the private landowner side or the public side, depending on that, and move it through from there.
This is a big issue, and I think it probably is worth one of our big meetings. Would it be worth getting the Board of Supervisors and this authority together
and have a joint
little round table and see if we can give staff some appropriate direction?
I mean, I hear the neutral part, and I know you've done a good job of that, but the expertise is in your office. So I mean, there's a lot of things that I think we can work on and make changes. Some of them I think maybe fairly quickly, but we're going to need staff. We need to direct the staff to do certain things in order to facilitate that.
And again, this is it's complicated, and it's quite the process if we're going to
there are a lot
change
of
some zoning. There's a lot of moving parts.
There's you have VDOT considerations. Of course, you have PSA considerations, even fire rescue considerations. All that goes in to making a project like this come to fruition.
Hey, Tom.
Yes.
Some of my big concern is, I mean, I know Chris and all of us at the Planning Commission spent a good bit of time overlaying suburban overlay. And I don't know how this ties into the EDA and as far as plans for residential housing and stuff, but I mean, going back to previous meetings when we were talking solar and such like that, I mean, the biggest issue I have is that some of the places that we are layering as suburban overlay, per my district, was actually an area we did suburban overlay. So it's like sometimes I see contradicting applications and stuff like that happening. And I mean, at $350,000, I have no problem with that. But on a mortgage, and you're talking about affordability and such, even before escrow goes in, that's $2,100. And I mean, I get it, we're bringing jobs in, but I don't know if I'd like to be, I was curious about how we came to 350 on that.
So,
Three-
Adam, I'll come back to that in just one second. I wanted to clarify.
Okay.
So we did have a work session with the Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
And so the Board of Supervisors directions was for us to present this to the Planning Commission. The item with regards to the R2 zoning district was one that needed to be really discussed with Planning Commission, as well as the accessory dwelling units and the planned unit developments. And so what the board suggested was that we talk with Planning Commission kind of in the same way that we did with the board, which is that the accessory dwelling units have been proven to be an infill for housing. What we have recommended is that the accessory dwelling units be limited so that they are not short-term rentals. So that's one item for you all to consider. Would you allow accessory dwelling units in additional zoning districts with the limitation that they would not be used for short-term rentals? That is a way to infill housing.
And I think.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with that because, I mean, Tom can tell you as far as like price per square foot. I mean, when you do the simple math at $250 a square foot, $250 a square foot, a 2,000 square foot home, you're over 500,000 there. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna kick it back to chairman, but
Well, I think
Right.
single family homes are probably not the biggest concern here, is it? It's more,
Well, it's all of the
could be
above. So
condos
based on
and-
the
yeah.
housing study, the indication was that we need a variety of housing to fill the housing needs, both for low to moderate income workforce housing. And then there's one of the way that the housing subcommittee for the Central Shenandoah Planning Commission defined it was affordability is affordability to somebody. Like
Right.
somebody can afford the $500,000 house, somebody can afford the $300,000 house. But the definition of like workforce is where you're in that in between. And so the infill of all types of housing benefits us all the way around. Right now, we're very concerned about workforce housing in order to fulfill vacant jobs at our local plants.
Okay.
So the survey, Adam, sorry, coming back to your question, the survey that we sent out, most people were saying that they wanted a house, of course, under 200,000 because that's reasonably affordable for pretty much everybody in Rockbridge County. Realistically, we all know that's not going to happen. So the developers that we met with in a sub meeting with them, they said the 350,000 is a more realistic cost for them to develop if they are in higher density locations.
Higher density meaning what?
Higher density meaning the more houses they can get on a piece of property, the less they spend on each lot, therefore the reduction in the cost of the houses.
What's the number?
kind of like what Freyland's proposing, something like that, but not
Well-
apartment based.
Well, Freyland's multifamily. So for
Okay.
instance, it would be a subdivision like potentially Greenhouse Village, but with reduced setbacks and a higher density where you can get more houses on those lots that are served by public water and sewer, which is our R2 zoning district. And Chris can chime in if he feels like it. But we've discussed this a little bit. Our R2 zoning district does meet some of the density requests that some of our developers had, although of course they wanted a lot smaller because the more houses you can squeeze onto the lot, the less money you spend on each lot, therefore the cheaper it is for you to develop the houses on those lots. So
The main problem is less than 1% of the land in the county is zoned R2.
right.
Yeah, one other thing, I mean, you mentioned the recommendations are made. I mean, I'm afraid we're gonna jump around and I think that since we're on the R2, that was at least the first one.
that was the first.
That was the
Correct.
first one on there, and Chris and I have talked about that as well, is that there's very little. He talks about the florist, Jefferson Florist being some reason that right there is a R2. Well, no one's gonna build anything there. But
That's
yeah,
it.
I mean, I
Sorry,
think-
Tony. Sorry about that. That's B2.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's,
That-
oh, never mind. Anyway, there's limited amount. We agree.
Yeah, there is
Um,
limited amount. I agree with you. Yes.
But the thing right now is in order, let me start with the Fralin thing that we just, unanimously, this body here recommended that was a good thing. So here was a case where a developer came in had a landowner willing to, I guess eventually he's going to sell it off to them or whatever, but they're going through and getting the permit. Now, it's one of the things that I've reading, the permit. We did that one day real quickly. I don't know why it didn't go to the Board of Supervisors on Monday, because it was
There's an
scheduled.
ingress egress issue there that has to be addressed.
Okay, so again,
The
it's,
applicant elected to postpone it.
okay, I'm just saying it wasn't, it would have happened very quickly
If it was
from a
ready.
zone, from a
Yes.
zoning standpoint.
Yes.
So I guess I'm pushing back a little bit on that. It's difficult for developers to do that. If they found a person that's willing to sell their property that fits what a developer would want, I think getting a rezoning is pretty likely. Now, the problem I've had that I've seen, and I think most of these guys know, I'm generally against downzoning, which we've done a handful of times over the last few years. And that was the first time we've ever done an upzoning. And so I guess that's part of the concern I have, is that your key word here is strategically, which is telling me we're going to force those changes, or should say that we would recommend that we force certain changes in certain areas to allow that to happen. And which means it might be against the desires of the landowner, which I think all of us will have a little bit of concern there.
Can I ask Chris to address that? If we decided to go bigger on R2 and get more,
Sure.
what's that? What does that look like?
R2 on public water and public sewer allows for quarter-acre lot sizes.
And as far as
Currently.
changing the zoning to have more R2, I mean, we did.
Yeah,
some zoning changes.
you know, the main points of the discussion are, of course, accessory dwelling units, planned unit developments, and then essentially county initiated rezonings. And so that is unusual. You know, the county initiated rezonings, and that would have to come. It would be a comprehensive, in my opinion, it would be a comprehensive plan change to the map. You know, probably could be defendable if you said, okay, it's in the suburban service area. But even then, you have to remember our suburban service area is essentially all our agricultural transitional zone, our business zones, and our industrial zone. So it's a very large area that's suburban service area. So what I think at minimum, what we would have to do is revisit the comprehensive plan and have a new designation done there. In order to revisit the plan, you know, we have to review it every 5 years per the Code of Virginia. But to initiate a change per the Code of Virginia, that has to come from the Board of Supervisors. And you know, while we did talk about it, there wasn't a lot of discussion on county initiated rezonings. The discussion that was had at the Board of Supervisor, in my opinion, it wasn't very favorable to say, okay, we're going to start pinpointing smaller tracts of land or larger tracts of land and county initiated rezoning. And you do have to. It is somewhat ironic because we are going through a public process with the Fralin project from from R1 with conditions to R2, and we haven't seen those type of. Well, on the corner of Steele's Fort and Route 11, we did a rezoning to R2 not too long ago, and that was for multifamily, single family, and duplexes, plus a assisted living facility. So that was a pretty aggressive rezoning. But the things I think we can focus on
that was done on the request of the.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, that was good point, Commissioner Member Sabrizi. That was done, of course, on an application of the landowner. And the one we're doing with Fralin, of course, is an application of landowner as well. So that's, you know, it's much more common for landowners to initiate map amendments. The other two things we're talking about, I think that the Planning Commission, that we all can agree there's certain merit to it, is the accessory dwelling units and the public, PUDs, planned unit developments.
Can we stay
And
on the R2? On the R2? Can we stay on the R2 for a minute though?
Sure, yeah.
Because I mean, I'm not saying I'm against strategically adding more R2. That's not my point. It's just that we could fill this room at some point if we try to do some of that. But I mean, but you talk about the comprehensive plan, but I guess I'm also saying, I mean, is the R2, an R2 property is, you said quarter acre lot. That doesn't fit a lot of what people are saying. They would actually maybe want to put a townhouse in. You want smaller quarter acre
Well,
lots.
townhouse, multifamily would be much smaller than that, much more dense, I should say. Multifamily, if you're talking about townhomes, condos, or apartments, it's a half acre plus 2,000 square foot for each additional unit. And
So it's still doable. It's all still doable with an R2. Under
yes,
R2.
it
Okay.
requires R2 zoning. Yes.
But why would we have to, if we strategically change some zoning, why would we have to change the comprehensive plan? Why is that restricting us from doing that?
Because the suburban service area is so broad. Again, it is our AT zoning district, our business zoning districts, and our industrial zoning districts, and in fact, it's a little bit of agricultural general. So
how does that limit us if we change something to R2 that couldn't do some of the things that they're saying that?
I think you would want, at minimum, you would want a second degree of hierarchy, something above the suburban service area. I don't have a name for it quite yet, but I think if you wanted to do that, you would go back through the comprehensive plan and establish a new district in the comprehensive plan.
An example of where that might, you mean like going up Route 11
around where public water and public sewer is actually available. Because of course, transitional zone, as it's transitional zone was created to keep the status quo of 2 acre lot size, 2 acre density. But even per the purpose and intent of the transitional zone, it says that it could be applications are for higher and more intense uses, and so that does support R2 zoning. But if it's a county initiated R2 zoning, I think you would want to be on firmer footing than just the suburban service area. You would want to create a new district, dense residential development district or something like that. I don't know what it would be.
I follow you, Chris. Thank you. Hey,
and then, but the other two comments are something that's much simpler process. I'll go ahead and say it is the zoning text amendments, and those zoning text amendments would be for a planned unit development, a PUD, which we haven't had any. It allows for some commercial aspects of it, as well as a diversity of single family, multifamily, and duplexes. Planned unit development, and then the accessory dwelling unit. Both of those would be a zoning text amendment to allow those in certain districts or not allow them in certain districts. So that's something that we could take and run faster than the county initiated rezoning.
That's kind of what I'm thinking is what can we do tomorrow, and what's going to take a little bit longer, and let's map that out so that we can
let's progress. That's a good idea to delve into the accessory dwelling.
So let me actually, can I start with the planned unit development first?
Yeah, shoot.
All right. So the planned unit development came into play during our survey, because when we did the survey, what we were trying to figure out is where people wanted to live in Rockbridge County. And a lot of them said around the city of Lexington. A lot of that's the desire to be around your amenities. However, they did say if they had access to amenities, they would live further out. And ironically, a lot of people wanted to live in the Fairfield area. And so the planned unit development allows for, as Chris just said, multiple types of housings and commercial operations within the same district. That way, you can potentially be in Fairfield, build a planned unit development, maybe have a little shop there or a restaurant. Same thing if you were building in the town of Goshen or the town of Glasgow. It gives you an opportunity for planned unit developments to allow for some commercial along with that residential, which then allows a greater desire to live in those areas versus what it is right now. Most people complain because they have to drive all the way to Walmart from our end of town, David. So it's, that's a thing. Like, people want to live where their amenities are. And so that's how planned unit developments achieve that goal.
Okay. Hey, Chris, Neil, the planned unit development, have you all, that was a good direction from the Board of Supervisors. We'll talk about accessory dwellings in a second, but has that been addressed by you all, or have you given it consideration on what that, it's a zoning text amendment. So that would be much easier. And have you guys been able to establish any guidelines or any of, how does that footprint look? Has anybody done anything about it? Or are you waiting on us to say, let's figure out the
Yeah, I think that was
PUDs?
kind of the intention was we wanted to come, but we went before the board. The board seemed favorable of the accessory dwelling units and the planned unit developments. And then to come before you all today
Well-
and ask for that same consideration for you to consider
Right.
the
Well,
accessory.
Why,
dwelling
why,
yeah.
why
unit
couldn't the
development.
approach with a plan unit development, I mean, and I'm looking at Chris up on the screen. Well, I mean, it's a matter of defining what it is
Mhm.
and then allowing it as a by right use or
Especially.
or a special exception. Now, I would tend to want the special exception that gets the opportunity to see the
Player control.
concept before you actually, people spend a whole lot of money on it. I mean, is that something that can be done for like the AT district even? Could you do that?
Yes.
Let's hold that thought. Now go over accessory dwellings.
Accessory
Maybe we can
dwellings.
talk about both of them at the same time once you go over. Is that a
They're
second
kinda-
house on a
They're kind
property?
of different though, aren't they, in terms of?
So-
They're two separate
Yeah.
concepts.
So accessory dwellings are, and I'm make sure I'm in the
Yeah,
right
so
zone.
they all-
They're by right in the agricultural zone. Is that correct? Correct me if I'm
No,
wrong.
no, we do not have any provisions for
We don't have
accessory
to-
dwelling.
Correct.
We do not have any provisions for accessory dwelling units. We do have provisions for additional dwelling on a single parcel of land. Most recently, and that's just a second dwelling on the same piece of land, obviously. More recently, we made provisions for garage apartments. And so you'd be going along that line of thinking, if you will, as we did with garage apartments, to give them more flexibility with internal setbacks, essentially is what we did.
Where are garage apartments allowed right now?
Every zoning district that provides for housing.
Because
So yeah, what is the difference between, excuse me, Neil?
With the proper acreage.
So in this case, essentially, we're recommending to allow detached accessory dwelling units by right in residential and agricultural zones. Obviously subject to health and safety standards, proper acreage and that sort of thing.
The difference you're asking between the accessory dwellings with the garages, and correct me if I'm wrong again, the garage is the primary use, not the apartment. Am I right? Chris?
You just have a garage, it's actually defined as a garage on the lower level and an apartment on top type thing, or a dwelling on top, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so ADUs are separate, like a
Separate,
shed
yeah.
that's turned into a little
Yeah, it could
cottage.
be a tiny home house in the backyard. It could be a grandmother's suite, like something like that.
Yeah, and the one caveat was, I think we have said short-term rentals a couple of times, we want to stay
Yes.
away from, but particularly Airbnbs, I think was,
Well, it's
what
just
the-
short-term rentals, what we're defining it as.
yeah, well,
It's a long-term rental is what it is, or it would typically be a rental if it's on somebody's property. So
Yes,
yes,
but we were trying to eliminate short-term rentals, and my understanding is.
That's a
their
great idea.
definition Of a short-term rental currently is 14 days or less.
30.
It's 30. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so 30 days or less.
Well,
We could change that to 14 days or less, and that would, but I don't know that that's something we need to worry about. We just don't want the accessory dwellings turning into Airbnbs.
Okay.
in concept, let me,
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have any problem with either one of them in concept. David, how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, no, I don't either. I think it's.
And Adam, you feeling pretty good about them in concept?
I feel about them good in concept. I think Chris, at one time, was there actually a plan to do like a tiny home division in Fairfield
It was South River area.
or something like that? I do remember that.
I remember where it was. It was Forest Glen or Forest.
Forest Grove.
It was out 731 Forest Grove. Is that what it was?
Yeah. Yes. I think it was.
it didn't make it.
Can't remember what it was called, but
Ronald Fleshman's place.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I think concept wise, we're all in favor of it. We'd need a lot more details per thing, obviously, but And from there, what would we say? We would direct staff to come up with the zoning text amendments that would allow us to work with the EDA and EDA,
So
correct?
Do we not?
I mean, I'm all for it as long as we identify the areas that we're talking about.
Development. Do we have a definition?
I'm sorry. say that
We
again.
have a definition that's already on the books for that, for our county, a PUD?
For accessory dwellings?
No,
For the
Either.
PUD?
Not in the.
No, no.
No.
So all of that would have to be taken care of.
But
And
there,
I-
there are set definitions for
Yes.
these do mean something. So.
Yeah,
it's a
I mean,
matter
I
of-
think we need to tailor it to us. I mean, I see a lot of the comparisons with
Right.
with Augusta County, and particularly Augusta, with Augusta County, is that, they got Waynesboro and Stanton. We have Lexington with MDV. I mean, that's,
Wait, say that again. I'm
what,
sorry.
look, we're comparing a lot of it. I mean, and I don't know whether it's a PUD, but there's a big apartment complex going right next to the shopping
Target,
center
yeah.
there. Yeah, and again, we can't support that. And I don't know that, I mean, I don't know that,
No, but in
but I'm just saying,
theory,
I think we need to
that
make
is
sure that
kind of
the definition is
idea.
tailored
Yeah.
to ours. And I mean, I agree with all that. I do want to ask one question, and this is the auxiliary ADU, accessory dwelling
Accessory
unit.
dwelling unit.
What problem is that solving?
So it can be an infill of housing, it could be a long-term rental. So for instance, say you're fresh out of college, you're moving to Rockbridge County, not ready to buy a home, you could potentially rent one of those accessory dwelling units and you can live in that. Or in my case, my mother and I were in the same house. We needed separation. I could build her an accessory dwelling on the same property and being in a mother-in-law suite
without
It-
being
it-
attached.
without
Yeah,
being attached.
yeah,
It
yeah.
increases density because you're
Yeah.
able to put a separate dwelling.
I mean, I
unit to
do,
your-
someone that lives in a neighborhood and has a half-acre lot, I would have a concern with somebody doing that next door to me because the lots are.
Well, I think that's
not
part of
that
the
big.
reason why we have not adopted those. ADUs are actually, have been, as an idea, been around for a while. And Univista doesn't allow, I think Lexington did just recently adopt it
Yes.
to allow for that, but the county so far has not chosen to adopt it. So this just is one way to meet the density, to increase the number of houses there without having to go through the
And type.
I just,
type of
to me, I
house.
think, again, I don't know
other
how.
issues to consider.
That's
yeah.
what I think you're right. We need to direct staff to come up with stuff so that, we make sure it's
You
all.
can address that.
Yeah,
those concerns.
address those. And I think I want to be specific to what we are because, how we are. And I think it's somewhat different. A lot of the farmhouses and stuff around here, if they want to put an accessory dwelling unit.
I mean, it could be the
plenty of room.
farmhand's house.
I mean,
If
I've-
they're
I've-
trying to find a farmhand, but the farmhand has nowhere to live, an accessory dwelling unit is an opportunity for them to have.
Yeah,
I got that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have a problem with it. I think if, it's a zoning text amendment, it would still be a special exception, Chris?
You could frame it in that way.
I was saying that way
I
you
would like
get
to,
the-
yeah, I think our next step is to see, what other localities are doing. It'd be interesting to see what Lexington did, that type of thing, and be for staff to become more educated on recommendations, get more educated on ADUs to provide recommendations to the planning commission.
Yeah, and I think that's probably where we're going here as a recommendation to delve into it a little further and see what that looks like. Because I think affordable housing is a great thing for the county.
Yeah,
And just look, what does it look like? We're talking about, we're painting a broad brush right now. If we can condense it
That-
into a,
That really fulfills the request of the EDA. It's just to start the process of
Yep.
looking into how we allow these types of additional housing units in Rockbridge County.
Yeah, I mean, even if they're not, end up as you owning the home, rental units are important as well and is something that we lack and was identified.
Yeah,
in the
we do lack
CSPDC.
rentals.
I said that, I think we all felt the same way about the
We were
fixed railing
very,
thing.
we were very clear on the fact that we did not want them to turn into a bunch of Airbnbs. So
Yeah.
that is one thing I'd like for.
I think if you limit
staff
that,
to
that solves a
address as
lot
well.
of the pushback.
Yes.
No short-term rentals, but I guess we could direct staff to delve into, and the accessory dwelling is pretty easy to delve into. I think the PUD,
Yeah, so
That's a
planned
little more
unit
complicated,
development
yeah.
will take more, and it will probably need to go along the same avenue that you're taking right now with the ADUs. Have staff look further into what other localities are doing, what works, what doesn't work, how we want to tailor it specifically to Rockbridge County, because we don't want like a development that's sitting in Waynesboro right now, which, in case you're not familiar with the apartments that just went up beside where Target, Aldi's, and I forgot what else is in that shopping center. There's a huge set of apartments that have got, that is kind of a planned unit development. I don't think that was how that intentionally started. I think that just they had property available and put it there.
I'm
But
just
that's
saying,
kind of the
one of the
intent.
things that with your study and having someone that moved from an area similar to outside of Waynesboro
Right.
to here is that there is amenities in those things that in those areas that we don't have here, and we probably never will.
Right.
We won't have a choice between Lowe's and Home Depot, probably. We won't have certain restaurants open on Sundays, like, you know, you could go to the others. Yeah, so it's that part is different. And I think from what we've heard with solar and all that, that there was, I think, a general not desire to make it a wild, wild west as far as
Right.
development.
But I think we can, plan unit developments in a way where we have, some townhouses, maybe some houses, maybe even some apartments all in the same area, and then have some centralized business zones that allow for the service, specifically a restaurant, maybe a gas station, or, not a bar,
Yeah.
who knows,
Fire-
daycare.
Well, I mean, that's,
Daycare is one that it has been the center of a lot
we
of these
mentioned to
planned
Fritz
unit
Fralin is that,
developments.
why don't you have a daycare in there? I guess they can't have a daycare in there, can they?
Where?
Right, the way it is right now. In the Fritz Fralin, if that apartment complex ever got built. I mean, that makes
No,
perfect
it's
sense to
just
me.
residential, yeah, so.
That makes perfect sense to me. And I kind of use the model and the way it was with me. I got out of school, got married, rented an apartment, saved enough money to buy a small house at 13% interest, by the way. And then continued to save some money, bought a bigger house as the family grew. And well, now I'm here.
Yeah,
with
and the
my-
availability of different types of housing does allow for that kind of
Yes.
transition housing to occur.
Well, I mean, I was looking at, I was trying to find some, who was the various target audiences. And again, I don't want to go deep into this because you all did it, but I mean, we've got Modine, we got the two schools, we got, I'm trying to think the hospital, things like that. And I guess those are the people that, are they looking for homes? Are people not accepting jobs at Modine because there's no place to live? You kind of accept the job, then you look for a place to live, I think, a lot of
Boy,
times.
it's
So,
actually changing. That's actually changing. And that's the what we're seeing and the reason this is coming up. Some of those HR managers have indicated to us that when they go to recruit someone, they give them the job offer. They start looking for a place to live and cannot
And then
find a place to
okay.
live.
I
and
can see that
decline the
happening.
job offer.
That's exactly
Um,
right.
Yeah,
That
and
is
that's
what's
happening more and more. That's happening BMI, that's happening at WNL, that's happening at Carillion, that's happening at Modine. It's happening in Lexington, Rockbridge, and Buena Vista. It's not just Rockbridge. And yes, that is what we're seeing. That's what we're hearing from the HR directors. It's now become a recruitment tool. In order for us to attract talent to Rockbridge County, we're going to have to give them a place to live.
I mean, I do,
Plus, they spend money in
the,
Rockbridge
yeah.
County too, is the other thing. If they're living in Waynesboro and driving to Modine, that's not benefiting us as much because 9 times out of 10, they're packing their lunch and riding straight back home.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, some of those people
Okay.
are choosing to live up there because of
Yes.
the amenities.
Yeah,
And
the
I know people that have said, oh, I bought a house in Augusta County because of that. I don't mind the commute.
It's the same for Roanoke. There are a lot of people
Yeah.
who live in Roanoke but work here.
Yeah.
And they just prefer what's available in Roanoke.
I believe we have a consensus to direct staff possibly to look. The PUD is more difficult, but in the short term, accessory dwelling would be a good place to start. And then maybe, I don't want to overload staff because there's a lot of work in that, but Chris, maybe we can figure out a way to start with the accessory dwelling and then navigate into PUD possibly. I mean, there's so much, the developer who can do the PUD. I mean, I'll use the phrase pipe dream because nothing else comes to mind, but some developer has to want to do it.
Yes, that's actually
And
my
without that
favorite
developer
saying.
who wants to do it, it's not going to happen.
and that
So, but
was
the accessory dwelling
expressed.
is a doable thing.
Yeah, that was expressed in our contractor meeting we had. And one of the things that we talked about was, with the availability of housing and then commercial, they pretty much said, we focus on the houses first, because once you get those under roof, then you have the opportunity to bring the commercial in. They do not focus on commercial first, and they will not focus on commercial first. They'll focus on the houses first.
Okay. So I look for more input, but I'm probably going to say let's direct staff to look at the accessory dwellings.
We'll look at
And,
adjoining localities that have some commonality with us and look at some language and begin to
And
present some ideas.
The bottom line being, come up with language that could be a zoning text amendment.
And that has to go to public hearing.
Go to
Yeah.
public
And
hearing.
that will be a great way to proceed with this because there will be comments on that. But, and again, the special exception allows us to work it a little bit so that it's not, that dwelling is not right on top of the guy next door. So,
And economic development staff and our EDA housing subcommittee are more than willing to help participate, provide input and support the
Okay.
community development staff.
okay. All right.
And I'm sorry, we didn't do a great job earlier introducing, this is Brandy Flint, Director
Sorry.
of Economic Development, and Connor Mitz, Administrative Specialist with Economic Development. And Mr. David Hawkins with the EDA is also in the audience.
I just assume everybody knows who I am.
Doesn't David Hawkins want to say something here tonight?
Mr. Hawkins, do you want to finish this up?
Maybe we don't want him to say something here.
Put the green light on.
Yeah, David, you got 3 minutes.
Come on, we've already passed our record.
Yeah, I think a couple of things I want to say. One is thank you to the Planning Commission for listening to us. This is a subject that is outside the jurisdiction of the EDA, and yet it smacked us around as we got immediately into subjects that we were charged with trying to do something about. So thank you for trying to help us. I also extend a thank you to Chris and to the planning office staff for providing us to help us in crafting the requests that you got and to help us to try to get the facts right. We otherwise might have gone down some dark roads that were not necessarily constructive. You probably got the idea from this conversation, and I got to say, I got a kick out of listening to all of you because you dived into some granular level details way deeper, almost immediately, than we are accustomed to working with. I won't say on a different plane, but we try to keep it at a policy level, and you went straight to the nuts and bolts of things, and that's a difference between your responsibilities perhaps and ours. There isn't a subject that's more important than workforce housing when we're looking at supporting the workforce of Rockbridge County. When I started now several years ago on the EDA, I didn't have any idea I'd end up talking about housing. That was not on my agenda of things to talk about. And I got introduced to that and childcare real fast because workforce broadly defined, not just affordable housing, but broadly defined, anything under $500,000. It can be workforce in our community. And it was something that really became significant as we went along on this. We have some vacancy. A lot of that vacancy isn't even habitable at this point. As we look around, there are housing units that are in such a state of disrepair that perhaps some of the initiative that will be next on the agenda of the EDA is trying to figure out how we might acquire and provide for the rehabilitation of 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units in different sections of the county, just to get us started on that subject. That'll be our short-term item. The second item is going to be developing water and sewer infrastructure. Somebody mentioned the Public Service Authority just a little while ago. There's more to it than that. We got to be able to deal with ingress and egress. We got to get along with VDOT. We got to get along with Virginia Power and BARC. We got to get along with DEQ. Pick one. But in Rockbridge County, there's always somebody else we got to go to for help. And one of our next stops will in fact be the PSA. They are a part of our housing subcommittee. They come to every one of our meetings. Reverend Melissa shows up and teaches us on a regular basis about things that we don't have and things that we need to try to get done. As part of this conversation, there's been some noting that, yes, we started to have some development of cluster homes in Rockbridge County, and that slowed down. Well, by and large, it slowed down because of the extension of water and sewer capacity. I mean, there are lots that are developed that can't be built on right now because of a moratorium on the opportunity to connect to water and sewer. So we've got the next issue in line is figuring out how to go about raising some money, how to go about raising some capacity, how to go about identifying particular properties that we can spend on that will address the ingress and egress issues, that'll get along with VDOT, and that will in fact get us close to the areas of the county that provide the services that people are looking for. And in longer term, there are some other projects that are out there. There's our last subcommittee meeting, we had 3 different stages, 3 different levels of things that we wanted to try to accomplish. Your help in getting some modifications, getting some identified areas where high density development can happen is essential to part of what we've got to do, but it's a much bigger subject than just that. You know, so we're asking you to take over that problem for us and lend direction to that. But I promise you, in looking at this, there's no subject that is more important to the workforce than what we've found. Last item I'll comment on is the money side of the equation. Adam brought it up a little while ago when he started talking about $350,000 and the size of a mortgage payment. You know, honestly, when we were talking with developers in our roundtable, they were talking about units much smaller than 2,000 square feet. They were looking at what do we have to do to put up a 1,200 square foot place, and how do we get it into something that somebody can actually make payments on. I ask you to picture, you know, we talked about our employers a little while ago. We talked about Modine. You talked about, picture this one for me. Picture a household that has one spouse that is a deputy sheriff and the other one is a teacher. And what can that household afford by way of a mortgage payment? And those are the folks that we've got to have as our target economic market, I think, for dealing with high density development. Got to do it. Appreciate you listening. And I'm going to stick on the high level side and let you folks deal with the granular stuff. I'm not going to try to draw a map for you and say, go fix it this way.
Just my comment there. I mean, there've been, and I maybe like to talk to somebody about this. We don't have to do it in the meeting, but I mean, I've looked at a lot of the stuff that's been done and stuff, and there's been some suggestions. And what I like to do is when we come up with language that would, and then do the test on it. You know, like you said, is that if we put on there that has to have water, well, that automatically limits you. So those are the kind of tests that I think you need. But the best way to test it is, you know, what properties have been interested. There was 3 mentioned, I think by Mr. Williams that was on your thing, Natural Bridge High School, Rockbridge Middle School, and on a Burke Stresser property. And I have some familiar with 2 of those 3, but I mean, I would like to, you know, okay, why is that something that a contractor is interested in right now in doing? Then let's try to make that happen.
There are 2 properties that.
Oh, sorry, David. I was about to say, I mean, some of it plays into even the cost for the builder itself. I mean, because some of the Fralin stuff depended on a grant associated with it. Because, I mean, let's just say cost of borrowing, I mean, construction lending, 6.5%, 7.5%. But I mean, and they have to have a big enough square footage to justify the amount of cost to fire up their workforce, pay for it. Even the county has costs associated with it to finance the utilities to bring it to the customer. So it's a lot of money involved with it for the county, as well as the builder, as well as the consumer. So there's a lot of different factors that play into all this. And I figure we'll come up with some kind of solution.
Well, we can change the words. We can make zoning text amendment. We can change comprehensive plan. That the words can change, but if they don't have the impact, then we're wasting staff's
Yeah,
time.
yeah, we're not getting anywhere. There are two properties that go up 11 North that are, I'll say, on our radar screen. They're going to require some, everything from crossovers on 11 to actually, okay, fine, there's water and sewer running on 11, but that doesn't mean anything when you got acreage that you then have to pull that off of the water and sewer. You've got to get it into the site. You got to build a road into the site. You got to pull three-phase power into the site. You got to pull, in some cases, high-speed internet into the site. You know, there's some places that very limited places, we have natural gas. You know, we just don't have it. You know, there's, you mentioned Augusta County, go up 340, they've got it. You know, it's a very different atmosphere. And yet how big a target audience we have, we don't really know. Yesterday, encountered a lady that lives in Riverheads, Augusta County, was working in Charlottesville, which is where we had the conversation with her. And there are, you know, just how big the population is that would come here isn't something you can draw parameters around. You can't sample that. You can't know that. But what we can know based on our employer base is that there's a certain amount of things that can be afforded by people that want to work here. And that's the evidence we have gathered so far. The next impetus from the EDA is going to be go searching for money. We got to figure out how to apply for community development block grants. We've got to figure out how to apply for planning grants associated with specific pieces of property and say, here's 2 pieces of property. Can we get 50 grand? You know, to figure out how to go about connecting all the dots to make this piece of property work.
But I mean, this is the Fralin as an example. I said, I like to use the real life examples. I mean, there was an interest in putting those apartments in that area. And I mean, is the grant a limitation to them doing that?
Sometimes, but just simply because of the size of the money.
I mean, the other case study that would be interesting is the Spotswood Road in Lexington. I mean, that went on the paper, that was in the papers for years, and that never came to fruition. Can we look at that and say what they did wrong so we could do it right?
I've been in this community 44 years. And I lived a good number of those years inside the city limits of Lexington, and let's don't use that as an example. Let's chart our own course.
Well, I got that, but there could be, you know, but I don't know any details on why they decided, because it went on for a long time. It wasn't like they.
I think I do, and that's all I'll say is I would encourage.
But again, you know, and using one of these as example, and I'm not going to dwell on more, but the Natural Bridge High School. There's 2 buildings there, and then there's a big, nice, flat baseball field. It's split zone. It's partially zoned business, partially zoned. I mean, if the owner wants us to make that R2, I think we'd be open to that.
And we have this happen to us a lot of times in our EDA meetings. We have property owners that sometimes are not responsive to our inquiries.
Ironically, he responded today. I will be having a conversation on Natural Bridge High School. Rockbridge Middle School is off the board though. I mean, that is utilized by Rivermont.
I know that one there. I mean, that's
using it.
And
that is just not.
They just redid their septic system there
too. High School is a discussion that we're.
But there is property out there around Rivermont that the county owns.
Correct. For athletic fields.
1 baseball field. The rest of it is not utilized. There's an old tennis court back there, and then there's what the old football field was there. None of that is as far as I know, is used. Maybe
in Rockbridge's hands, leased in Rockbridge. I'll go back and look. We can
have
a conversation.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I don't want to, but I'm saying I that's what I'm looking saying, okay, what difference can we make tomorrow? Not necessarily what we can make.
Rockbridge Middle School is not on the radar for things to look at. Now, to Bridge High School, yes, I can have a conversation with those property owners. Birchdresser property, that is something we can discuss. The potential developments there. But privately owned properties are privately owned properties. It's for the property owners to decide whether they want to sell them, how they want to develop them, and then on their timelines.
Well, that's,
I cannot dictate what people do with their private property.
no, and that's, but we could change the zoning on it as we hear. That's,
Yes.
I mean, the county can.
Can't do that.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Summary
Yeah.
to all this. We appreciate your help.
Thank you, David. And I guess our summary, gentlemen, our summary might be to direct
No,
staff
this is so-
to look at direct staff to look into accessory dwellings and maybe
Look at the language, look at
what does it look
some of the other
like? What does
components
the
that come
zoning
together.
text amendment
Mhm.
look like? And then, the PUD thing, it's a long shot just because of the developer, but accessory dwelling is right there in front of us. That'd be a good start. Direct staff to do that. Adam, you good with that?
I'm good with that, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. All right. We appreciate your time, all. Thank you. Yep. Okay. Next on our list is zoning text amendment discussion, section 1300.02, administration of site plan review requirements. Neil, would you like to run with that?
Yes, during its 2025 session, the Virginia General Assembly enacted Chapter 594, Senate Bill 974, which amended several provisions of the Code of Virginia relating to subdivision ordinances and plan review. The legislation requires each locality to designate a designated agent to review and act on subdivision plats, site plans, and plans of development. Importantly, Chapter 594 provides that in localities with a population greater than 5,000, the local planning commission may not serve as the designated agent. Instead, the governing body must appoint an agent or employee of the locality to serve in this role. To comply with this new statutory requirement, at their August 25th, 2025 meeting, the Board of Supervisors designated Chris Sladen, Director of Community Development and Zoning Administrator, as Rockbridge County's designated agent, and Neil Whitmore, Deputy Zoning Administrator, as the alternate designated agent to serve in the event of the absence or unavailability of the designated agent. With the appointment of a designated agent and alternate, the land development regulations require updating to reflect these changes. Section 1300, Site Plan Requirements, 1300.02, administration of this article retains the review process for major and minor site plans set in place by the Board of Supervisors. The current language of section 1300, site plan requirements, 1300.02 is as follows. And it's in your packet if you want to go through that. It's chapter 1300.
I believe you, Neil.
And then we also included essentially a red line edit of section 1300.02 with the suggested changes to update the language for that to accommodate the changes.
To make sure we comply with state law.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so it's not really open for discussion, so it's a good thing. Yep. Let's move forward with that. Any comments?
Make a motion to make the changes.
I think we're asking to set a public hearing. So if you
Oh.
look-
Oh, yes.
look on the
So we
back
should
of it.
direct you to set up a public hearing for that because we're good with it. So excellent.
March 11th is the next planning.
Go get them.
Good. Okay. Any other business, gentlemen?
So piggybacking off that, I don't think there's any required changes to the subdivision because the designated agent is the subdivision agent, which I currently serve as. But there are other things, mandatory provisions that out of Code of Virginia, mandatory provisions of the subdivision ordinance. And so I would like to take a look at it's perfect timing. Talking about workforce housing or housing in general. I would like to take a look at the mandatory provisions in the Code of Virginia to ensure that our subdivision regulations are in line with the state provisions. So that's something, and we also have somewhat of a lengthy process when it comes to reviewing bona fide subdivisions staff has the administrative approval of a single lot per calendar year. We have the administrative provisions of the large lots subdivision, anything over 20 acres. All lots have to be over 20 acres, I should say, or tracts in that case. But if it's a standard subdivision, sort of like the ones we've talked about tonight, there is a preliminary plat that's due. And then after y'all review the preliminary plat, within 90 days, they have to come back with a final plat. And I'd like to I'd like to revisit that to see if we think that's necessary to have the preliminary plat, or do we want to just have a straight staff administrative approval of a by right subdivision? There are some things in the subdivision ordinance that I would like to review with the planning commission, potentially even next month.
You
To
are so
put it on-
directed.
as directed, of course. And
You are so directed. Yeah.
okay, fair enough. If that's if that's the consensus of the planning commission, we can work on that as well. In injunction, or at the same time, I should say, as the ADUs.
Great idea. Proceed.
Perfect.
Okay.
And the only other thing is, and I may have missed this, but did y'all do the election or appointment to the community development committee meeting?
That's on the agenda too.
We did not.
Okay, we can circle back to that. That was agenda item number 2. We might have missed it on your chair notes there, Tom.
Did I miss one?
Yeah.
It's agenda item number 2 is the community development committee membership.
I'm willing to stay on that, by the way. Yeah.
Currently, chairperson BB and chairperson Sabrizi is on that.
Yeah, I am too. So.
And again, that committee is made up of 2 members of the Board of Supervisors and 2 members of the Planning Commission.
Yeah, Tony and I would love to stay on that. Yep. And it's not on my sheet.
Apologize about that.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Do we need a vote or anything on that, or just?
John, would it be best to do a motion on that, just to make a motion that?
Yeah,
would that
I
be-
think it would be helpful.
Okay.
Some-
Do you want to make a motion, anybody?
Sure. I make a motion that Mr. Sabrizi, Mr. Beebe, remain on the Community Development Committee.
I second.
We have a motion by David and a second by Bob. All those in favor?
Aye.
Do we have to recuse ourselves? I'll say aye. Okay.
Thank you.
It's unanimous.
Perfect.
There are no nays. I forgot to ask for nays. Are there any nays? No. Motion
Perfect.
approved unanimously. Thank you, David. Yeah. All right. Any other business for the good of the order?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor? Aye. We're done. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Chris. Thank
Thanks,
you, Neil. Thank you, Vivica.
Thanks, Adam.
See y'all.
Adam, thanks for sitting in.
Yes,
Adam.
sir.